This episode contains discussion of postpartum depression and discusses suicide. Viewer discretion is advised.
If you've been through something unthinkable, if you've ever been told not to share your story, to suck it up, buttercup, or thought, no one would believe me anyways, if you're still here fighting to figure out what comes next, then you have a story the world needs to hear, and we want to be the ones to help you share it. My name is Joe.
And my name is Sam.
And we are Project Tell Your Story, here today with Burgundy. Hi, Burgundy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing pretty good. Yeah, we're excited to have you here to talk to us.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you here. How are you feeling about talking to us and sharing your story with us today?
Feel pretty good about it. I'm also hoping to encourage other people in my circle to, if they need to, because I feel like it's a good, safe avenue, for lack of a better way to phrase it, to get your story out there and to vent as well. So I'm kind of hoping to encourage others that I think it may benefit. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, I think I'm good.
That's
Good.
awesome. I really love to hear that. That really warms my heart. To be like, look, you call this a safe environment, encouraging. I love that. Like that's exactly what we aim for. So I'm glad that that's working.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, what we've been talking about since the beginning of our goal is we started this podcast so that way we can help people, whether it helps people to be able to come on and talk about what they've gone through and what their stories are, or even just hearing stories from other people knowing that they're not alone. So that's awesome. I love to hear it.
Yeah, me too. That's really cool.
Sweet. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Burgundy. What do you work? Do you have kids? Tell us.
So I'm currently not working. Cause I'm doing the trad wife stuff, I guess is what the internet calls it. So I have two little kids, a 4-year-old, and well, she'll be 4 in a few days, and then a 5-year-old. So there's really cool.
You're busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they definitely keep me busy. But we do lots of, preschool, home, kind of starting to do some homeschooling to try and get our feet in the water with it before they really have to buckle down and start it. And then hockey and dance class and musical instruments and just try to stay busy.
Wow. Yeah, you're definitely staying busy. Hockey, dance, musical instruments. What instruments are they playing?
So they I guess they haven't officially started playing yet. They're in their the teacher's in a break grade. Anyway, but they want to do drums and piano. So
drums. Fun for you, Mom.
Awesome.
That's super cool. Also, I have probably a dumb question. I see it all over the internet. The term trad wife, but I don't actually know what that means. Does it just mean stay at home mom?
I mean, I don't know. They have it all sorts of weird because internet is dumb sometimes. But basically just traditional. My husband brings home
traditional.
Yeah, the mom takes care of the kids and the house and the cooking and the craziness, but
okay, that makes sense. Because everyone's like, the hashtag trad wife. And I was like, what does trad mean? Traditional. That's funny. All right, cool.
Yeah,
well,
I was just going to say,
today.
What did you think that trad meant?
I had no idea. I didn't even remotely have a concept. I was just like, all right, I understood it was like I just kind of thought it was stay-at-home moms type of situation. And so I was like, all right, well that makes sense, but I don't know why they call it trad, traditional school. All right.
That's
Well,
funny.
great for your traditional life. Also, it sounds like your kids are super benefiting from that because they're in all sorts of different sports and musical instruments. Drums. That's a brave mom move.
I mean, you gotta start somewhere, and I don't know. Like, I grew up with, I grew up in band and theater and dance, lots of dance. And then, so I already wanted to put them in stuff like that, and they're in bowling too, actually, but, which I was when I was their age too, but then my son, he just from the second that kid was born, he loved hockey. He very rarely, like, the TV would be on, but he wouldn't be watching it from the time from till he was like at least 3. He wouldn't even acknowledge it at all. He didn't have a favorite character for the longest time. But if we were out at dinner at our favorite restaurant, he was glued to the hockey games every time. He loved it.
Cute.
And my parents go to a local hockey club, like they go watch a local hockey club, and so they, we went to my hometown for the weekend and decided to go with them one time, and he was like standing on the stands cheering them like, let me on the ice, let me on the ice. So we kind of, yeah, he loves it. I had friends that were hockey players and stuff, but I've never really been in it, and it's a new crazy world, but it's definitely lots of fun. So
That's awesome. I always wanted to play
Yeah.
hockey growing up, but I had a lot of really bad ear infections as a kid, and so like my ears are all messed up on the inside, so my balance is 0. I have 0 balance, non-existent. So I love that for them.
It's really cool. Oh, I love that you're like, no, this was what he was meant to do, so that's what we're doing. That's really cool. Oh. Well, you mentioned today that you're ready to talk with us, and to kind of get us rolling before we dive into like the super deep stuff, we're gonna play a game where we would pick a decade we wish we could live in instead of this. So, Burgundy, tell us if you could time travel, what era would you visit or live in, and why?
um honestly, probably like the 40s or 50s, but I'd still want a lot of our technology because it seems that people didn't have to do quite as much. Like, moms were able to spend time, and I know, like, yes, women should be the right to work, and there's of course like fair wage argument and all of that, but I'm worried that we're getting too far into the whole now everyone's going to have to work, where it's not a choice. And so I would pick the 1940s or 50s.
Yeah. I think that
Yeah.
is such a good point, right? Where you're like, and to your point of choice, you're like, yes, I agree that we should have the right to do whatever we want. But also, what I want to do is stay home with my kids. And this economy right now, not many. Like, just
Yes.
yeah, like you can't really be a sole income household anymore. It's just not doable. Or if it is, then you're making massive cuts. Like, how do you put your kid through drums and hockey and horseback riding and the flute and dance and everything like that, and then be like, also let's do groceries on one income. Yeah,
Yeah.
And
It's
bills.
and
definitely,
bills.
it definitely takes a lot of budgeting, but
Yeah,
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
yeah.
I
All
think
right,
that
game
is such a good
wise,
answer. Yeah.
I like it. Game wise, what about you, Joe? Where would you live?
So when we did when we prepped for this, I didn't realize that we were all answering, so this is a surprise.
You don't
Yay.
have to answer. It just made me feel. I right off the bat, I was like, this feels like an all of us question.
No, I'm totally gonna answer. I just had to think about it. I think I think it would be cool to do like to live in the late 80s, early 90s. And I know that you're probably like, "Oh, that's not that cool," whatever. But to me, I'm like, that's when they had all the best music. And I just hear my parents talk about all the time how the same thing, they lived off one income, they had kids, my dad, they bought a house when my dad was working at freaking Subway and was their only income. And
Oh
they
wow.
just, yeah, life was just so simple. And the new technology and all that was starting to come out. So you still kind of had access to the older technology, but it wasn't to the point where it was something you had to rely on. And I love that because I feel like nowadays everybody just relies on technology, which it is a good thing, but then at the same time, you don't get that personable reaction and the personable conversations like face to face, whatever. You don't really get that anymore because everything's texting and Instagram DMs and yeah. I'm like my attention span became non-existent ever since TikTok came out. Like so
Yeah, because you want that instant gratification. Yeah.
I know. I'm like, this video is 20 seconds long and I have to watch it. It is not entertaining.
Who has 20 seconds skip?
Skip. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what I would say.
Oh, you both have pretty similar answers. I was thinking about
Yeah,
mine.
what about you, Sam?
I wish I could pull a Taylor Swift and just be like, well, what does she say? She goes, maybe the 1830s, but without all the racists and getting married off to the highest bid. But like, really? I actually don't want to live that far back. So I don't know. I very much I like being here. Like I really like the yeah, I think I like the idea of I like the convenience of technology. I like the convenience of being able to contact anyone really anywhere in the world with just a few taps on a computer, clicks on our phone. Um, I think if I really had to, I actually like the idea. This is going back a little far, but I think it would have to, my answer would have to be on like what time frame would I live in where I could meet a historical figure. And I would want to meet Amelia Earhart because this is my Lila nerdy part coming in. But like I want to know how she did. I rely so much on technology for flight training now that sometimes it kind of blows my mind. I'm like, wait, you guys navigated how? Like when you didn't have a GPS to track you the whole way? I just think that would be really cool to meet a woman in her time frame that was like making such waves in a navy in a very male dominated field and then be like on top of it being hard because you're a woman, can you also tell me how you did this? Because math is hard. Did you just do a lot of math? So I don't know, I think I would want to go like back to a time where I could meet her, but also I just want to visit. Like don't make me live there. I really like 2025, 6, 4, like this time frame. Anyway.
Did you just forget what year we're in?
No, I was saying I like 2025 and then I was like and 24, 26. The like I'm saying like I like
Oh, okay.
I like being in this era.
That's fair. That is very
Actually,
fair.
we should go with that. Yeah, I forgot what year we live in.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, now that we've kind of broken the ice a little bit, we're all a little bit more comfortable with each other. We know what we want really in life. Let's
Sam
talk
wants
about your story.
technology, Burgundy, but also too like where you're at in your life. Like you two are moms, and well, yeah, you two are moms, and so you're like, I want the ability to be home and be present with my kids, and I'm like, I don't know, kind of like the I like the fact that I can get on a plane and go anywhere. So
That
I
is
think we're
fair.
we're a wide range. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like
I
that.
do like to work, but I wish that I had the luxury of working because I want to, not because I have to. That's what I hate. I'm like,
Yeah.
I would probably be here anyway because I love what I do, but the fact that I have to be here just takes all the joy out of it.
Yes. I love that. I want stupid money. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go, Joe.
Yeah, you did, you little bitch. Just kidding. Okay. Yeah, so now we can move on to talking about your story, getting into what you are actually here to talk to us about today. So, like we tell all of our interviewees that this is your story, we want to hear whatever you're here to talk about. So, if we ask you a question that makes you a little bit uncomfortable, or if there's something that you don't want to talk about, that's totally fine. We'll just skip it. We'll move on. But otherwise, this is your story. So we're changing all of the names of anybody else involved, and then we're just using the pseudonyms for other characters like my husband, my kids, my mom, whatever else. So yeah, and you're good with that? Perfect.
Sorry.
Okay. You're good. You're good. It's just good to establish that every episode. Our listeners are probably like, yeah, we get it. But whatever.
Blink twice if
Sweet.
you agree.
Alrighty, well, Burgundy, I would love for you to take us, or I would love for you to take us back and help us understand what you went through. So can you tell us kind of what you're here to talk to us about today?
Right. All right. Yeah. So, um, I technically still have postpartum depression. It's definitely not something that gets talked about unless you're in the delivery room. Both times we were actually in the delivery room, the nurses were all talking about it, but anywhere outside of that, it's very not normal to talk about. And that's really difficult because you almost jump to the conclusion of the postpartum psychosis where I mean, and that those are awful. Um but like they kind of gloss over like they talk about baby blues, which is just feeling just not quite right and just a little bit out of it, clear to postpartum psychosis, which is like you're so overwhelmed and not okay that you end up hurting your children. But I don't think a lot of the in between is really I mean, obviously psychosis isn't acceptable either, but I think that a lot more women are in the middle than we really give credit for. And it's also like it's kind of got a stigma about it. Right after I had my daughter, I went to work with someone like a year later, I guess, and she was pregnant. Her spouse had said like that he's probably just going to tell her to suck it up. And I was like, that is the worst thing he could tell you. Like, if you're ever feeling like not okay, call me. Like, I will come get you. Like, we can put an extra car seat in the car. I don't care. We can drive around in the middle of the night. But that isn't a healthy position to be in, like, where your partner is just like, well, I'd just tell you to suck it up. And I think that a lot of women are in that position, and that makes me sad. So the fact that I'm not gives me a little bit more of a comfort zone to be like, no, it's not fun and it's not okay, and it needs to be talked about because if someone's going through it, then they need help.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That makes me so sad.
me too. Look, we are barely into this episode and I am already tearing up. This is gonna be, I can feel it. I got tissues, so I'm glad. But that makes me, it's so hard because women are so amazing. And I think it's a real, like you said, a disservice to women that we're not talking about it. So much so that their partners, her person, probably someone hopefully who loves her very much, is like, I mean, it's not that big of a deal though, right? Like, I get sad too. You just gotta suck it up. I'm tired too. We have a baby. No, it's beyond I'm sad or I'm tired. But since nobody talks about it, you don't actually give the opportunity for the people in your life to support you because they don't understand. And then you don't understand what's happening. That's that's got to feel really lonely, and that makes me want to cry thinking that we've set up a society where that's just normal.
Yeah.
That's
And
really hard.
especially because a lot of it is chemical. It's something that you can't even control. You just, first of all, you just pushed a baby out, so now you're like, holy shit, there's a person here that I just created, and now it's like, what do I do? But then you have all of the different, like, your body's trying to get back to normal. You have all these different hormones that help shrink your uterus. You've got the oxytocin going, and then you're sleep deprived, and all these other chemical imbalances in your body, that's everything's just trying to get back to normal. And so that's something that's totally out of control for anybody, women, men. Like, you can't physically just control your hormones. So for people to be like, oh, just suck it up and be happy, it's like, fuck, I didn't think of that. Thank you. Thank you for the advice.
I didn't think of that. You're right. I'll just be happy. That's really good. That's really good that women are also amazing in the way that we're like, okay, we get it. Especially if you've been through it, like you had Burgundy at the time, and it takes a village. It's really good that you were her village. So you mentioned that you had you mentioned you had postpartum depression. Tell us about kind of what level you were at with the baby blues and feeling slightly uncomfortable the way that you said it, or psychosis, or in the
Um,
middle.
so I was definitely in the middle, and honestly probably a little bit closer to the baby blues side. I think a good portion of it was that I and it was a choice that I made. And I obviously I'd make it again because I wouldn't trade them for anything, but having them at only 18 months apart was hard. And I had probably dipped in a little bit to postpartum, like the postpartum depression level, with my son, but I was still, and I think part of it too, like, yes, I want to be a traditional wife, I want to be able to stay home with the kids, but also part of it too is that women have a tendency, well, society, I guess, has a tendency to almost lose the actual person they were before that because, well, their mom, like, they have to bring the kid with them, or they have to do this, they have to do that. And when after I had my son, I was actually in a position where I still had to work to help provide for us. And so I was going to work as often as I could still, and I think I was technically still working two jobs at the time. But when I was home alone with my son, that's when it really hit hard. Um, and so it was probably a little bit like on the heavier side of baby blues with him. And then I did not give my body the time that it needed to heal. And then after that, my daughter's pregnancy was so hard on my body that there was just nothing left. And I had to stop working halfway through. We did actually end up it thank God. Like, this is definitely a God avenue, I guess is the best way to phrase that. But my husband had lost his job about halfway through my pregnancy with our daughter. And so I was working two jobs. He was working as hard as he could, but he was still trying to find a better job, a better paying job. And he actually started the job he has currently, which is a much better paying, better schedule, better all around job than the original one he had when we had our son. And he started it literally a month to the day our daughter was born, like after she was born. So it was very perfectly timed that way. But in the middle ground there, I had to stop working because my pregnancy, like with her, was so hard. I guess I didn't fully stop. I cut down my hours by more than half. And so then I was just trying to get everything in my house in order to have her, and had my son, and I was working part-time, and my husband and I were working opposite shifts so that we didn't have to worry about childcare, and all this crazy stuff was going on. And then once she was born and everything seemed to calm down, my emotions couldn't. When she was born, I lost a lot of blood. Like, my mom talks about it, and it's kind of scary to hear it from her point of view, but where she like came in the room, this nurse that was like Dr. Bailey on Grey's Anatomy to the point of like even match her skin color, and she was just so like she was so amazing. Like, she was like Dr. Bailey to a T almost, I swear, but she was
Yeah, like a fiery little black
awesome.
woman. Yeah, I
Yes,
like it. Yeah.
exactly. And she was hilarious. Like, while I was pushing, she's like, "Who has red hair?" Like, 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 yeah. I mean, she was so funny, and so sweet. But my mom's interaction with her was that she was very like supportive, because my mom came in and this woman comes up to her and she's like, "We need her to keep talking. Like, you need to keep her awake." Um, and so like she kept like talking to my mom and like checking on me through my mom, and so we both have really great memories of this wonderful nurse. But she came in the room, and I guess there was like, it was like a scene from Grey's Anatomy. There was blood all over the floor, and she was worried she was gonna slip. And from my mom's point of view, it's quite horrifying, honestly, what all was going on in that room, because I couldn't see any of it really. But I probably should have gotten a transfusion. I didn't end up getting one, and I don't fully agree with that decision, but it's what it was. And then when I got home, I was just constantly cold, and I attributed that to like, well, it's the middle of December, of course you're cold. You live in a very cold place. But I also like couldn't sleep, and I couldn't, like, I was always not okay, and I would try, like, I couldn't, because I had, a newborn and a 1-year-old. So I couldn't do this, but I wanted to be in bed like all of the time. And I didn't really even have the strength to get up and do like what necessarily needed to be done. I mean, my children were clean, they were fed, but anything farther than that was not happening. My house was a wreck. I was a wreck. Like, I didn't brush my hair, I didn't shower. It was anything that wasn't like making sure the two of them stayed alive didn't happen. Like, and a few months into it, I was on TikTok in the middle of the night because my husband was working late, and I couldn't sleep and I couldn't function really. I was on TikTok and I saw a postpartum mom thing of where if you're always cold after you've had a baby, it means that you're not eating enough. Like, you need to eat more. And so I started eating more, and that started helping. And I remember one night I was at my wits end, like the kids were crazy, and the house was a disaster. I was like trying to step over toys and dirty clothes, and everything was nuts, and both the kids were screaming, and I like had like an intrusive thought of like just like pushing my child down, and obviously that didn't happen, but that was my breaking point. Like, that intrusive thought was my, oh my gosh, this is not normal. So that's when I started getting help. Her pregnancy honestly was a struggle from the get-go, and yes, we made the decision to start actively trying again. But after my son, we thought I was pregnant again at 6 weeks. We went in for my 6-week checkup. We thought I was pregnant again. It took us months to figure out what was actually going on. And it was just a leftover basically of his pregnancy not fully getting out, I guess. But we had decided not to put in a new IUD because we were like, well, we're going to start trying again in a few months. And so I think that honestly kind of sped up the process, because if I had had the IUD, I would have had like time to heal again and things like that. But I didn't. And then it was just odd. Like, I couldn't feel her like I could feel him. And there was so much fluid. And so I couldn't do a lot of normal activities. Even driving in the car, like if my husband was driving in the car, I could feel my whole stomach like whoosh, whoosh, because there was so much
Oh.
liquid in my abdomen. And so then by the time like that we had finally got to my breaking point, I had not really been myself for quite some time. And of course, like, my husband had just started a new job, so, and he, usually partners are, like, the ones that are gonna be like, something's not right first, because the moms don't notice it. Like I said, like, that was my breaking point, that, like, intrusive thought of being violent. I mean, it wasn't, like, a huge, like, crazy violent thought, but it was enough of a violent thought for me that I was like, that can't happen. And I mean, it wouldn't have even hurt him, truthfully. But it was still too much of an aggressiveness that I couldn't handle it. And so that's when I like went to my doctor and was like, this is not okay, like this isn't right. I need help here. And they immediately got me on antidepressants and started helping me through all of that. And honestly, like, I remember filling out the paper multiple times, because you have to fill it out during each of your prenatal appointments, you have to fill it out at each of your checkup appointments afterwards, and each of your baby's first few appointments where they get shots and stuff. I mean, obviously in other states it might be different, but where I live anyway, that's what we were doing. And so I remember filling out the paperwork each time and debating on, because it does like a scale of 1 to 5 of like how you're feeling. And I remember telling myself, like, you need to put 1s and 2s. You need to put 1s and 2s. Because otherwise they're going to like jump to conclusions and think that you're a terrible mother and all of this. And so I think like the other women probably think that too. Like, instead of like actually letting yourself truly answer the questions, you know what the right answer is. And so you put the correct answer. And that's, I mean, it's not beneficial to anyone in the long run. And so I probably should have gotten help before I did, but I'm glad that I got help when I did. I also don't know, like, there's so many things that are interestingly different about their pregnancies and deliveries that I wonder too if something like that caused them. Because with my son, we were in the heat of COVID, like, and so when he was born, there was no one else really allowed. Like, my parents and my grandparents, and my husband's parents had to all sit in the, like, this one tiny little waiting room, and then another patient came in that had tested positive for COVID, and then they all got kicked out, and so then they're all waiting at the hotel on video chat with us, like, is the baby here yet? Like, what's happening? And we didn't know at the time how I was really progressing, because he was my first child. So I was in labor technically with him for like 36 hours, I think, because they induced me, and then they just kept trying to get him to go vaginally. They didn't want to have to do a C-section, but because they had induced and broke my water, and actually he got to the point where he was like in distress, is when we decided, well, I guess actually he wasn't in distress, my body was, but that's when we had decided to do technically an emergency C-section with him. But there was one anesthesiologist at the hospital. She was very on top of making sure we were okay. There was very few doctors, just basically my midwife and the surgeon. Obviously there were nurses there in there assisting them, but it wasn't very chaotic. Even though it was an emergency surgery, it was not chaotic, and it was not panicky. It was very calm still. It was still a very nurturing environment, for lack of a better way to phrase it. And it was a small town, so like, at the time, like, I knew exactly who was, I mean, I could probably still call the hospital and be like, who was the anesthesiologist, and they'd be able to tell me exactly who it was. And because there aren't many, it was a very small town, smaller than even the town I live in. And then with my daughter, it was much more urgent when we got to like actually pushing. And so when I stopped pushing and we did C-section with my son, it was because my temperature spiked. It went from normal temperature to like 101 within a matter of moments. And so then that's when my midwife called it and was like, "Nope, we're doing a C-section." But with my daughter, we had already had to be life flighted once. We were already not sure like what was causing the extra fluid. We were afraid that like there was going to be something wrong with her and that was the reason for the extra fluid. So we were already having her in the big city hospital that like we'd already been life flighted there, and we were already planning on being induced at this much larger, much more advanced teaching hospital. I guess I shouldn't say advanced, like they all have the same education, but it's just
More
bigger and access to better
experience.
technology. But when I was pushing, I did spike a fever, and they just I don't want to say ignored, because I don't necessarily know that that was their intention behind it, but they didn't react really to my fever. They were only focused on her, which is, I mean, at the time I was like, yeah, that's fine. It probably wasn't the greatest plan, but that's what happened. And I think it's probably because my intentions going in were I want to do a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth following a C-section. And it was going to be my only chance really to do such that, because any other child that was born in a small town hospital would be like, they would recommend if you've had a C-section once, have a C-section again. And it's all about like the confidence of the surgeons behind it, because if you do a VBAC and something goes wrong, it's really easy to lose the mom. It's really easy for the uterus basically to rip inside. And so they're like the blood pressure drops, and then you only have a matter of minutes, and you have to like rush to the OR and all of this, and so it's really about like the surgeons that are available and the confidence that they have in the ability to make sure that you make it through the labor. But while I was pushing, like, it wasn't so crazy, I guess, until she was actually in the birth canal. But that's when it really started to get crazy. Like, there were nurses in and out, and like I said, like, I don't remember the Dr. Bailey nurse. I don't remember her name. I would love to, because she's amazing, but I don't remember her name because there were so many nurses and so much happening at the time. And it probably is because I tried to lose a lot of blood, but her birth was so much more chaotic, and the aftermath of it was more chaotic, because even though it was the height of COVID, I was able to leave my room because there was one other couple and their new baby. So as long as like we weren't like in the hall at the same time, like right up in each other's faces, they weren't too concerned. And obviously all the nurses and doctors had already been in all of the business, and we'd already all taken tests and confirmed that we weren't at that time sick. So, and the other person that was like in a whole nother section, completely closed off from the maternity ward. So I was able to like get out of my room and walk around, and like they would encourage me to do so. And that really helped the healing as well. But with my daughter, I wasn't encouraged, and it was almost just it almost depended on whichever nurse came on shift, because like one nurse would tell me to like get up and walk around, and I'm like, you know what, that helped with my son, I bet it'll feel good to do that. And so I would get up and walk around, but I couldn't leave my room, so I had to like just walk around in my room. But then the next nurse would come in and like get up mad at me because I was sitting on the couch next to my husband, like with the baby. Like we were all just right there in the little couch. It's not like we were crazy or anything. And she'd be like, "Why aren't you in the bed?" I'd be like, "Because I don't want to be." So I don't know, like if it was just a preference, or if it was like the difference of like a big city versus a small town, or if it was just the difference, or if it was like vaginal versus C-section. I don't know. really, because there was so much difference, if that's like what could have possibly pushed me over from baby blues to postpartum. Um, but it was definitely a lot.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that
I
sounds like a
rambled a
lot.
lot for a minute.
No,
No, that's
no,
perfect.
that was I. Who I get so emotional. Um, I don't have kids, but I'm a pretty big champion for women. And I just think that having a baby is the most amazing thing you can do on this planet. And to hear, because you're just, man, you are going through it. And to hear your story about just the difference between your two births, and no, so many times throughout you talking, the thought kept coming to my mind is, why don't we talk about this more? And the birth itself, like, we're coming on this project, tell your story, is about talking about traumatic experiences that people just tell you not to talk about, that they're not a big deal, or everybody else gets to control the narrative. And birth is absolutely, it's a very, even if it's a, like you described your son's birth as in a much, your tone was calmer, you laughed more. And then when you talk about your daughter's birth, instantly everything tightens. Your tone, your body language, you can tell that it just bringing you back there is scary. And both of those were trauma on your body. So much that they had to cut you open and tear a baby out of you, right, the first time. And it just it makes me very emotional that we're not talking about this more.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
thought about Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. It's definitely interesting too, because like birth stories are so different every time and for every woman. Like my um husband's grandmother, I mean, she's in her 90s. Like she's just definitely not with the times. And so
With the
she's very like
times.
she's something else. Anyway, but she's very like, well, the women in my day didn't have to do this and they didn't have to do that. And I'm like, yeah, and a lot of them died.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes,
So
and a lot of them died.
yeah, and so like it's annoying. I guess I don't want to say annoying, but like the difference in everybody's birth story, and like they're like, well, you just need to suck it up. Even to like, well, you had, an all natural birth with 2 pushes in an hour. Like you don't really know what I went through, and you don't know the trauma that it went through, and so, and I don't like, that's great for them. That's awesome. I can't even imagine being able to do that. Because mine were so crazy. But then like when you're pregnant, it seems like all you hear is horror stories, and they're only like other women, and so it's almost like they've never been able to tell anyone this story, and so they're just gonna blurb it out to you and scare the heck out of you because because they've never been able to talk about it, because it's hard and it's traumatic, and but it's a natural thing, and it is a natural thing, but it's also a thing that killed a lot of people over the time. So
Right.
Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
and
I think
like,
part of the Oh,
no, go.
okay, I was just gonna say, I think when you said that all these women, they just kind of, you know, word vomit on you about like all of their traumatic birth stories. Um, Part of it I think is because we are taking these forms when we go to the doctors and putting, oh, well, I have to put down, like you said, ones and twos, otherwise they're going to take my kid away. Or I have to put down ones and twos, otherwise they're going to medicate me or they're going to do this. whatever. We have all these fears. And instead of feeling like I know that I need help, and I know that if I put these specific answers on here, I'm not going to be punished for that, but they're going to help me. But that's not always what happens. We get shamed, we get told that we're bad moms, or people get concerned and they call CPS or whatever it is. Or another thing that I wrote down is gaslighting ourselves into thinking, okay, well, it's really not that bad. I mean, yeah, I get sad sometimes, but I'm fine. And so then we convince ourselves that, oh, I really only need to put the one or the two because, sometimes I'm sad, but really I'm just overreacting. It's really not a big deal. When it is a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's yeah. And there's so much stigma on almost anything to do with being a mom, whether you that doesn't even really affect the child in their long run, like whether you're using disposable or cloth diapers, whether you're using breast milk or formula, whether that's even a choice for you, because some moms don't really get a choice. Like they don't produce enough, or they don't, or their milk is just not uh nutritious enough, for lack of a better way to phrase it. Like they were worried about that with my son because he's just tiny. But so you almost can't do anything as a mom without getting ridiculed. And so to like even have an issue with the thing that made you a mom, like the actual birth that you had to go through to be that title, even that has so much stigma on it already that you can't even express yourself really.
Yeah. I know it breaks my heart because
Same.
so many women are in this boat. I mean, whether you have a super easy labor and birth or whether you go through something crazy traumatic, it's like we all experience that hormone change. And not even after pregnancy, like during pregnancy, every single month when we have our periods. And I feel like instead of women, really just society, but women also like banding together and giving each other grace, it's a competition of, oh, well, mine was worse than yours, or back in my day, we didn't have to worry about this. And yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, Burgundy, I want to talk about, you mentioned in your email to us that and you kind of mentioned as well in your story about did the VBAC with your daughter. Um, and you said that you were given medications to start your induction, and then you had stayed up through the night because you were by yourself because it was COVID, and you were writing goodbye letters to your families. Um, can you kind of go into that?
Sure. It was like gosh, it was so dark in the hospital room, and like the light from the bathroom was on, and I couldn't get up really because I had like an IV, and I was so very pregnant. Because just, I mean, she was not by any chance a small baby, and there was so much extra fluid, and I'm not a very tall person, so it was all very scrunched in my abdomen, and so I couldn't move very well, and I had an IV in my right hand, which they don't like to do, but my left hand doesn't work. Like they've tried, it doesn't work. So I couldn't really move very well. And I remember like just laying there, and my husband was asleep on like the couch that they get, and um I just I was just watching him sleep, and thinking about her, and I couldn't um sorry.
No, take your
No,
time.
take your
I'm
time.
blubbering over here and it has nothing to do with me, so you're okay.
um like I think I had recently read a story or something where like someone hated, like a father hated their child because the mom died in childbirth, and I didn't think that he was truly capable of that, but the thought of it was terrifying. Um and so I I wrote him out on my phone as if it was like a text message. So like if they were going through my phone later, it would pull up in the conversation that I was having with them, each person that I was writing to. Um and then even after, which writing them was not fun. It was very emotional and very um hormone induced for sure, because there just wasn't, um because my hormones were crazy. They were out of control, and um but also like their normal emotions. um so I remember like thinking like how much spunk she had and how much like fire she already had. Um because I mean, we still say it now, but when I was pregnant with her, um, I left work Thursday afternoon at noon because, I mean, I worked at a preschool, but because my pregnancy was so rough on me, my doctor said nope, she stops work at after the first class, because like they're just little, so they would come to school for 3 hours and then go home, and then we'd get a next group of kids. And so she would say like, nope, she can stay and clean up, but then she's out of here because I don't want more pressure on her and the baby than necessary. And so I left at noon, and I remember like I was making plans with everyone, but I kept thinking like I'm not coming back. But I had full intention to come back. But yeah, I left the night, or the week before Thanksgiving, exactly a week before, at noon. And then the Monday after Thanksgiving, I woke up in labor. um and so she would technically be preterm, which honestly, if we knew then what we know now, because we didn't know much about her development at the time, like obviously we had ultrasounds, obviously like they had taken fluid, so they ran an amniocentesis just to like make sure nothing was crazy, anything like that they could, as far as her development, that they could tell was wrong, wasn't, but they still didn't know. And actually we still don't know to this day why it had so much extra fluid, but because of that, we weren't sure at the time. If I had known then what I know now, I probably wouldn't have stopped my labor. I probably would have just been like, you know what, we're just gonna drive to the city and have this baby that morning when I got up. But I went to my local hospital and I told them like everything, and they were like, okay, well, we can, you're in active labor, so there's a few things we can do. We can try to have the baby here. And I was like, no, I don't feel comfortable with that. Like, I don't know what is going on with her. Like, there's all these other questions in the air, and like if we do it here, I'll have to have a C-section, and I don't want to do that. And so I was like texting my job, plural, at the time, and I was like, because one of them I only worked on weekends, and then one of them I only half a shift, and then the other one I worked during the week but only half a shift. And so I was texting all my bosses and trying to get our son taken care of, because it was pretty early in the morning when I had gone to the hospital. So like my brother and sister weren't able to come pick him up yet, and I had to have like my best friend go pack my bag because it wasn't even packed yet to like bring to the hospital. And then a family friend came and picked my son up from the hospital. It was just a crazy, like, and they gave us this huge lecture when we got there because it was still pretty heavily into COVID. I mean, it was only 21, so, but about like, well, you're only allowed to have two people in the hospital room. And we're like, okay, well, do you want the laboring mother and the toddler in the hospital room? Or what exactly
Yeah.
do you want to pick out right now? Or like, you're gonna leave the toddler in the hallway? Who do you want to deal with? Anyway, so it was pretty crazy. And we're like, we just have to chill till someone can come get him. Like, we don't have very many options. And so when so we finally got everything sorted. My friend went and packed my bag so we could go to the city and have the baby at the big teaching hospital there. And my cousin actually like went to the hospital to like be able to meet me there when I got there because of everything else. And my husband was like already on the road and I was getting ready to get put in the helicopter. And I remember a contraction hit me like right as we were taking off, and then no more. Like, I could still feel her wiggling a little bit. Like I said, it was different with her because there was so much water. I had to like really concentrate and like push on my belly to feel her. But I could still feel her moving. Like, and they obviously like had my heart rate monitor hooked up and all of the things. So, but I wasn't having any contractions. And I remember looking out the windows, and the place I live in is technically in a different state than like the place I grew up and a place where the city hospital is. I've lived in these two states my whole life, like, and so I remember like watching the scenery pass and just being like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy because I could recognize so much even from the air. And then we landed, and actually I missed this part. So because I had tested positive at the hospital when I went in like in labor for COVID, and I didn't have any symptoms, so I didn't know. But because I had tested positive, then they made a rule that only my husband was allowed in the room with me, and once that person was in the room with me, they couldn't leave. So like my mom met us there because she lived in a different town to take my son from my husband because she lived in my hometown and we lived in a different state. But so my mom only beat the helicopter by about 10 minutes, and my husband was only behind the helicopter about 10 minutes when everything was said and done. But so they took me into this room and they were like checking all my stuff, and they're like, you're not in labor. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, you're not effaced, you're not anything. And I was like, okay. I was dilated, like 1.5 centimeters, but that was it. Like I was no longer in active labor. And then they made me stay in the city for a couple of days. Like I had to stay in the hospital for a couple of days, and then I think I stayed at my cousin's for a day because they live there. But just like making sure that I wasn't in labor anymore. And then once I was able to leave, I was like, we were fine. She was whatever. Like they checked all the stuff. They made me do stress tests a lot with her. But like we went back to my normal pregnancy stress instead of being in active labor. So, but because my COVID test came back positive, and 2, because of all of the craziness, my jobs just put me on leave already. And we make a joke all the time because I loved my job. The kids were amazing. The parents were amazing. My coworkers were amazing. However, the people in charge were not so great and didn't like to listen to suggestions. So it was a pretty stressful place, and I had already dealt with like when I had my son, they threw a fit because I left early to go nurse him instead of staying after and cleaning up. So I actually had my midwife write a prescription or like a doctor's note that said like Burgundy has to leave at 4 hours to take a nursing break. So it was like already a bunch of stuff with the job that like they weren't happy that my hours got cut. They weren't happy that was still nursing my son. They weren't happy really with anything I was doing at the time. And there's no way to prove this, and I'm not really mad about it because I actually formed a really great friendship with this teacher and that I'm about to talk about, and he actually teaches my son now. And my son is like, he thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. They are like thick as thieves. And I probably wouldn't have done that if I hadn't been in his classroom, but when I went on leave for my son, I was with these two my head teachers were these two women. We were really close. And we already had a plan for when I came back. Like we'd already set it up. We'd already got all the stuff. And like a week before I was due to come back to work, our boss emailed all of us and was like, "Nope, we're moving her to this man's classroom." And we're like, "What?" So then like they thought I don't know that was truly their intention, but at the time it felt like they thought I was going to just crumple and not like take a nursing break because I'd have to do it. Like I'd have to ask this man for permission instead. And like I said, it ended up working out because he and my son are thick as thieves, but that's what it felt like to me. So I was already like not happy with my bosses, and I was already like dealing with all this stuff. And so we made a joke that she just liked having that time off. Like, no, mommy and I are just gonna stay home with Bubba. We don't need any of you guys' bullshit. Like, we're done. And so while I was like writing these letters, I just kept thinking about like, no, she had made that decision to try to cause that and then make us not ever have to go back to work, and it worked. And so we're like, all right, well, apparently she's got her own little kind of agenda and she doesn't really care if you follow it. Which honestly rings true. So but we've always made that joke about her like just being done with their bullshit, and no, mommy and I are gonna stay home and hang out with Bubba and we're gonna be fine. So yeah, while I was writing the letters, that's what I was thinking about. Like, she just has so much already, and she really did, and she does still, but I didn't want to ruin it with anything. Like, I didn't want to cause that to get dull in any way, shape, or form. And so I was so scared that they were gonna like blame her for it that I just couldn't take it. So I didn't want so I wanted to say like, this is my decision and I know that, but don't treat me like it never existed. But don't blame her. Like, it was they were very hard to write, and I honestly have no idea what they said. When after it was all said and done and I told my husband that I had written them, he actually got on my phone, because like for the next few days, anytime he like left the room, I would pick up my phone to like text him like, "Oh hey, can you grab me a water?" or whatever, because he would like go downstairs in the hospital, and I would pick up my phone to text him, and the letter would come up instead of like just a blank message. And so then I'd start to cry again. So I think, I could be wrong because honestly it was 4 years ago and it was a lot of lost blood and craziness, but I'm pretty sure like he at one point like just took my phone and deleted them. He's like, "No, I'm never reading it. I don't want you to read it. Like, we're done with them." At that point, because it just kept making me cry. And
Aww.
he refused to read it. And when my mom found out, she was really upset that I had even written one to her, for lack of a better way to phrase it, because I felt so guilty even thinking that I might not make it through labor, that I didn't want her to go through that pain.
Oh, that makes
Oh.
sense.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I don't think you should feel guilty about feeling those things either because, I mean, that's a real fear. Because, like we were saying, women used to die in childbirth all the time, even though it's not like super common now because we have all this technology. But I mean, there's still complications, and you were already having so many complications. So I feel like, at least for me, that would almost bring me a little bit more comfort knowing that I could tell my family like, "Hey, I love you, but like don't let this affect your relationship with your daughter or your granddaughter." So, is that how
Yeah.
it felt? Did it give you any peace?
Yeah, it did. It did definitely. I mean, there was a lot of feelings all happening, but yeah, having that opportunity to say all of that was really, I think, beneficial for me because I wasn't scared after or at the time anymore. Like once I finally got it out um into the messages, I wasn't scared of not making it through, I guess. Like I don't know how to explain it better than that. But yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense to me. Something I heard, and I don't remember where I heard it, whether it was like a podcast or a TV show or something. Um, but I heard it a long time ago and it said, say the scary thing out loud. And I think to be like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Say it out loud. And then when you say it out loud, it's almost like it just kind of like releases it. Because otherwise it's like inside and then it just spirals and becomes a bigger and bigger and bigger scary thing. So that's what I'm hearing when you say, I it it stopped feeling so scary when I put it down, like in a text message. It was like, okay, they know my wishes. I've said it out loud. Um, it makes all of it almost seem a little bit more in your control because it's no longer spiraling out of control inside your body. Like you've said the scariest thing out loud. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what
Ugh.
what was it like when you finally got to take your baby home?
It was good. I it's honestly pretty fuzzy. So she, because of when her birthday lands, it was really crazy. Because it was like right before Christmas. So she, so I don't really remember much of it. Like I have pictures of like her first Christmas, and she's like this teeny tiny little thing. But
Hmm.
her brother, she was sweet and calm, and I remember even in like the delivery room she was not like on TV shows, and I remember it with my son, like that immediate like cry, and you can hear it and like the whole room breathes, and um but she didn't, and I was freaking out. I was like, I can't hear her, and I was like not okay, and they were like, no, she's crying, she's there, she's just really quiet. And I remember being so worried that she was just gonna stay that quiet because she was just chill. Like I mean, so like her brother wouldn't just sit down and watch TV. Like no matter what, he wouldn't just like sit down and listen to a book or sit down and watch TV, or like he hated tummy time because he couldn't do anything, and all of the stuff. Like he didn't want to ever be just like sat down. She was the complete opposite. Like she would like I would put her in her playpen, which was in the living room, and I'd like go be doing something and not even, and she was just being quiet and whatever and being good. So, and I'd go back in and check on her, and she like legit was just watching TV, like at like 4 months old. I'm like, what are you? How are you doing that? Like that's. But she was just calm all the time, and I remember being so worried about that. But then actually she met my cousin. He's only a week older than her. Um but she met him, and he was loud and proud, and she's like, you know what? I like that. I'm gonna do that too. And she has not been quiet since. So, but so it was really calm, really, in the house for a while there. Which is even weirder because it makes the fact that my emotions were so not okay even more like glaring, even though at the time they weren't. It wasn't. But yeah, and then they had and her brother, he was so sweet with her always. Like he thought she was like the coolest thing and he always wanted to like take care of her. Um I remember the first time he was holding her, he was so excited and like he was mad at us too. Like we went and saw him in the we were able to go to the like waiting area for a little bit, and so I was able to see him and he was so mad at me. He's like, no, where's the baby? Like you said the baby was here. Where is she? Cuz I didn't have her with me at the time. Like they were doing eye drops or so, I don't know what they were doing. I can't remember what they were doing specifically, but the nurses had her. So anyway, he was so mad at me, and so then when he actually got to hold her, he was very like it was very like, oh, this was always just like how it was supposed to be, the two of them. And they are just, he's so protective of her. And he would like climb up onto the couch so that he could like look in her bed, and he'd like rub her face. Like I used to rub his like
Aw.
forehead to get him to go to sleep, and he would do that to her while she was like laying in her playpen. And so it was pretty. There were some really good moments in there between all the insanity, for sure.
That's so cute. I love that.
Yeah.
He's just so excited to have a little baby sister.
Yeah.
It was really cute.
Yeah. So what was it like? You kind of mentioned that like, your son handled it really well. You got to go
Mhm.
home. It was quiet. She was kind of just really quiet and calm at first until she really discovered her spunky personality. Um, um, so going home and dealing with like the postpartum depression and just like all of these emotions and all of these feelings and these thoughts that you're having, how did it affect you and your husband as a couple?
Um, that one's a little like I'm not really sure that it because it all happened so much. Because he switched jobs right then, and everything else was going on as well. And because of all of the complications, like intimate activities were strictly off the table. Um, but
Yeah, you weren't
so we
about to get
actually,
pregnant again.
yeah, no. Um, but we were sleeping actually on the couch for a time, which honestly made it a little easier because there wasn't like there was not any body parts touching. No, not even hands or feet. So that part was made easier by that. But um it after, I don't know, it was almost like trudging through water. Um and he was he was very supportive and very like there for me, but he also didn't really know how to be, but I could see that he was trying to be. So honestly, it made us stronger in the long run, and I don't think that there were a lot of things that happened in between that really shook us up very much. Um but we were very there were lots of talking, lots of like deep conversations for sure. And like he would come home, the shift that he was working at the mine would get off at, like he'd get home at 2 in the morning. And so he'd come home at 2 in the morning and both the kids would be asleep, and I'd just like be curled up into a ball like on the heater, like on the heat vent in the floor. And so he'd like have to get me like out of there and like make, and he did his best to like take care of me and make sure he was there for me. He's truly like an amazing man for sure. But yeah.
That's so good to hear.
hmm
I
And then like
also, oh, go on.
sorry.
No,
So
no, you're good.
I did remember something that I wanted to point out. Like, so I remember in the hospital with her after she was born, like being so angry at her. And like, I know, obviously looking back, it's a completely irrational thing to be angry at your child. But I was so angry with her. And, and I remember like not wanting to hold her unless I had to, which is awful to say and think about now, but I knew it was awful to think about then, but I couldn't stop it. And so like I would only hold her if I was nursing her. And I'm so like relieved that the daddy-daughter bond was so strong with them immediately because I didn't even have to worry about it. Like he was always taking making sure like that she was being held when she wanted to be held. And I had told him like from the get-go, even before our son was born, like dirty diapers at the hospital are your responsibility. Like I did my part.
Yep.
So he was very
Amen.
understanding of it.
Yeah.
But I just remember being so angry at a infant for literally no reason. And I don't really I mean, like now obviously those were like the first warning signs, right? But then I didn't really get it, and it was so hard for me to even stomach that I was having those thoughts.
Yeah. So was there like any reason, like were you angry at her because she like her delivery was hard? Were you angry at her because like there's complications? Was there any reason or was it just a feeling?
I mean, I guess like rationally in my brain I felt like it was because of like the complications and that her delivery was hard, but there's not really like even that seems silly. Like it's not her fault.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Yeah.
I love
Um,
how vulnerable you've been in your thoughts and saying, I had intrusive thought and I wanted to push my kid down. I,
Mhm.
after my delivery, I was so angry at my baby. And I, I'm so, I'm trying to, the words I have in my head sound so awful too, because I want to be like, I'm so glad you said that. And I don't mean like, my gosh, I'm so glad you were going through all this stuff and that's how you felt, but I'm so glad that you felt brave enough to say the hard thing out loud because I
Yeah.
think many women think that and they're like, oh my God, but you're going to think I'm abusive if I say I thought about pushing my kid down. Like one time, one of my friends had a baby and I asked her and I was like, so how's like a couple weeks into it and like, how's it going? And she's like, it's the craziest thing. I've never loved something so much. And I've also never hated something so much. And I just think that that's just like a really accurate description, but no one says that. So I
No.
think it's really cool that you did. I appreciate that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely it's not and like if you're going through a time where you're like thinking that motherhood is awful and that there aren't like good things in it, then you need to like definitely check yourself because I had a someone tell me like they were scared of having children because they talked to someone and they're like, no, the bad days definitely outweigh the good, and the good moments, the sweet moments are few and far between. And I'm like, that is a horrible way to think about your pregnant. Like they might need to talk to somebody. Like that's not necessarily okay. But at the same time, like how is she gonna know that that's not like what other mothers feel? How is she gonna know that that's not normal if she's not talking to someone about it? And so I don't want anyone to like be having those thoughts and having those feelings and thinking it's normal, because it's definitely not. And like I remember I dreamt this a lot while I was going like in the really deep of it, is like being in the ocean and not being like just open ocean all around you and nothing, and just like sometimes you're above the water and sometimes you're under the water, but there's no getting out of the water. And like even the pressure from the water, like you can almost feel it. Like I don't know, there's this really dumb cartoon that I stopped watching because I was like, okay, this is too much. But it's called Loudmouth, and it has this depression kitty, and she like lays on a little, like not a little girl, a teenage girl. She like just lays on the teenage girl, like she's just this giant cat that lays on this teenage girl, and like she's like, no, you don't want to get up. And the teenage girl's like, yeah, you're right, I don't want to get up, I don't want to do these things. And that honestly is very, very real. And like the pressure on your chest is there, it's very real, and it's very like you can't even breathe um because you're afraid you're gonna drown, kind of a pressure and kind of a feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally understand that. This kind of just goes back a little bit to when you were saying that you've had friends that are like, "Oh yeah, the good days are few and far between." It it made me chuckle a little bit because I this girl that I work with, her and I were both pregnant at the same time, and we had this conversation at work one day that we were like, I'm just convinced that people say, "Oh, pregnancy is such a beautiful thing," to convince you to get pregnant. And then they're like, "Ha, now you know what it's really like." And so it just made me think about that. But I think that also kind of goes into the differences and the importance of knowing the difference between the baby blues and when you need to start looking for help for postpartum depression. So, like you said in the beginning, baby blues are, pretty common, temporary kind of state of mind and mood swings. You get anxiety, you're tired, you're sleep deprived, you're sad. And then it usually just lasts from a few days, couple weeks, and then postpartum depression is like how you were mentioning. It's a lot more severe. It lasts a long time. You don't want to do anything. You have that depression kitty laying on you. You don't want to get up. You're in the funk. You're drowning. You have thoughts of pushing your kid down. Um, so yeah, and it just really interferes with your ability to function and care for yourself and your baby. So I think it's good for women to know that, sometimes it's okay to think like, this fucking sucks. Why did I do this? But if that's all you're feeling, then maybe it's a good thing to kind of start looking for some help.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned too that you had some pretty that you said you had some pretty severe depression at some point. Were there ever moments that you thought about ending your life?
For that one, it's kind of a little odd. Because like I'd already, I did actually a few times, I guess. Once actually before my child was even, like before my son was born, like it was the height of COVID, and I was so pregnant, and I remember thinking like, why am I doing, like, is this a good idea? Why am I bringing him into such an awful, horrible world where we can't even go outside and we can't interact with people, we can't be around others. I remember thinking that at one point, and like then realizing what I had thought, and like kind of freaking out and backtracking and like getting help then as well. And then other than that, I it's always been an interesting, I don't want to say, how do I say this? It's kind of been a struggle in my family, like, so um so we've like more or less talked about it, kind of a thing, when I was younger. And so I knew that it wouldn't help anyone, and that it would just hurt everyone. But I also remember thinking like, I'm so bad at this. Like, they deserve a better mom. He deserves a better wife. Like, they deserve better and I'm not. And kind of almost wishing like I could just disappear, like erase myself, um, rather than like almost just completely take myself out of the equation. But there was no real way to completely do that without hurting everyone as well. So I think that's kind of what kept those real self-harm thoughts away.
Yeah.
That's very real. That's very real too. And sometimes it's not, and I hope you're okay with me asking that question. Um, just because it's such a vulnerable place to be, right? And I think something that's kind of misunderstood about those thoughts of self-harm and ending your life is it's not necessarily like you want like you don't want to hurt. In fact, it's the opposite. Like you want to, I like the way you put it out, you want to erase yourself. And what's another way to do that? So I
Yeah.
appreciate your vulnerability there too. You said what kept you going was knowing that it wouldn't help anybody and your goal was to help people. Like I just want to make their lives better and I know that's not going to do it. Were there any other things that you were doing or that maybe other people were doing for you that also helped those thoughts go away?
Yeah. My husband was very like, we need you, because I was pretty open to him about it, and he was very like, no, we need you. Like, I don't care if someone else would be better, they're not you, kind of a situation. So, yeah.
We are here for a supportive partner. I love
Yeah.
that. I also giggled when you were like, we had to sleep on the couch because we can't touch each other. And I was like, love, love.
Yeah, I know when you mentioned you were like no hands or feet could touch and I was like, "Oh my God, when my husband touches me with his feet, it just gets me going."
Oh.
Um, I don't know. He's truly amazing, and he's, I don't know, there's very like love of your life, like
Oh.
kind of
I'm so,
situation for sure.
Sam's
I
crying
love
again.
that. I'm crying again. I don't know what the problem is. I was like, maybe I just need to cry so you know that it's okay to cry too, but I'm blubbering over here today, man. Oh,
Yeah, I love that. That makes me so happy, especially because, we talked about how other people are not super supportive, and you had a friend whose partner was like, "Oh, well, I'm just going to tell you to suck it up." And it's like you didn't have to go through that. So, you didn't have to go through this tough experience alone. That makes me very happy.
yeah. We love women, but we love a good supportive dude too, man. Yeah. I'm happy.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so were there other people in your life that played a big role in like the support system other than your husband?
Um, well, my mom's super awesome, and she's very supportive, like, and and honestly, she probably would have been like basically like lived at my house the first few months with how crazy everything was. But she had just recently moved back to our hometown, so she wasn't able to, because like um my her mother is actually got diagnosed with Alzheimer's like in October or November of 2020.
Mhm.
And so like in the meantime she had been traveling back and forth between where we lived and our hometown, um and it's only a couple hours, but it was getting really hard on her, and it was like taking a toll on my mom's health and taking a toll on this and taking a toll on that. And she'd actually decided to fully move down, like back to our hometown, in order to take care of her fairly deep into my pregnancy. And don't get me wrong, like I fully supported it. I thought that was an amazing, if that's what she wanted to do, especially since my stepdad, he's great to her, and I'm glad that she's finally with a partner that is great to her. But it, like, so I was very, very happy that she did that for her, because she needed to do that for herself. Like, she needed that. And so I was really happy that that happened. And so I was kind of pretty quiet about it, I think. But she was very supportive where she could be. And even though she was like 2 hours away, she was still very supportive. When I was still like dealing with baby blues and my husband was working nights, she would like come get me with my son. She would like come get me and my son, and we'd just like drive around and go get dinner, and then just go back home. Like, it was kind of became our like nightly routine for like, if he was working, she would just come get us and we'd go get dinner, and then we'd drive around till the baby fell asleep, and then we'd go put him in his crib, and she would go home. And but it was pretty, she's extremely supportive and very amazing. And it's kind of sad because like, my mom is so very supportive and there for me, and so I kind of expected that from my mother-in-law too, and I did not. That is just not the same, and she's very much like not supportive.
Aw.
She's fairly narcissistic, so it really became a really stark contrast, even like to the point of almost making it worse. Like I said, she was only born like a week before Christmas, and my husband's aunt hosts our Christmas usually, and she was like, "Are you guys coming?" And I was like, "You know what? Probably not. At most, we're gonna be a week postpartum. I'm gonna not be feeling great. The baby is who knows what. Like, we don't even know if she's gonna be healthy. We don't even know if we're gonna be home. We don't know. So probably not. Don't count on us. We love you guys. We'll catch you after New Year, like, no biggie." And she was cool with that. Like, my husband's aunt's she's pretty supportive too, but my mother-in-law on Christmas Day, like, we're all just like napping after, everyone had come over to open presents, like my mom and my sister and his brothers and his parents, like we'd all met at our house to open presents so that the baby didn't have to travel, which was my mom's doing, honestly. She was like, "No, we're gonna go there to open presents. It's not going to be a choice." And so she pushed for that. She's like, "We're not making mom and brand new baby leave that house. That's not happening." And so they had come over and everyone opened presents, and then after everyone left, like, we got the baby down for a nap, we got our son down for a nap, and we were just like relaxing and like just trying to be, really. And like, she called my husband and she's like, "Well, you guys need to come over here because I need to hold the baby, and we're like, "Since when do you even care?" Like, and that's terrible to say, but like, she doesn't really make an effort to like hold the baby on any general day, like any general Tuesday. If my hands are full and the kids are being crazy, my mom is very immediate to like, "What can I do to help you?" And whereas his mom's like, only if it's convenient to her and only if she can make a show of it. And in fact, she took a picture and posted online like, "Oh, my beautiful granddaughter." But in the meanwhile, she does have 2 grandsons that she has never posted a picture of, and I was like, that's just not okay. You can't just snuggle one of them for public view and not even hang out with the other 2. That's not okay. So it really became a stark contrast to how supportive my mom really was, because she's awesome, and then like how not supportive some parents are, and that's, honestly, it hurts my heart, like, that some parents do that. And so I was actually studying the book of Ruth in the Bible a few months ago, and it really spoke to me. Like, they're a mother and daughter-in-law, and in this society, mother and daughter-in-laws are constantly like in competition, and that's not okay. Like, you're not supposed to be in competition. And you're supposed to be like a second mother to them. You're not supposed to like do anything crazy or be so it's definitely interesting, and it definitely like puts this perspective on my life, and I even pray about it now. Like, I want to be a good mother-in-law. Like, I want my son's wife to be able to like call me in the middle of the night, like, I can't make the baby stop crying, I need help, and that is fine. And so I want to be able to be there for them if they need it. And I don't, like, I want to be a second mom to them. I don't want to like replace their mom, obviously, and I don't even know who it is, of course, yet, but I want to be able to like foster that relationship. And it kind of sucks that she doesn't, like,
Yeah.
so. And it's interesting too, because like with my father-in-law, he almost does want to like foster that relationship and be like a dad to me, and he's fairly supportive, and they actually got divorced recently, and he's been even more supportive since then, with like babysitting, or what do you guys need, or like specifically what do the kids want or need for Christmas, what do the kids want or need for birthdays, and so it's really like discouraging. Like, I'm almost sad for her, if that makes sense, that she's not like having those relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little off
No,
topic, sorry.
no, not at all. That's exactly what we asked you. Yeah, that definitely feels. I love what you said, that I feel sorry for her. Yeah, because it's not like you're punishing her. It's not like, well, then you don't get to be around the kid. You're like, these are the natural consequences to your actions. Like, because you're not supportive, you're not as close. And that is sad for everyone. That
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah, it is. It is. But definitely
What do you
natural
do?
consequences,
Can't
love and
force it.
logic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
I feel like that is frustrating though, like for you as a mom, the fact
Mhm.
that she only wants to come around when it's convenient for her. It's like
Absolutely.
you want people to love your kids all the time, especially their grandma, and that's just not
Mhm.
happening.
Yeah, very, very true. And like my biological dad he doesn't even know that he knows they exist, but he doesn't know anything about them, or like his granddaughter practically shares his birthday and he doesn't even know. So
yeah.
Yeah.
it's hard. But
And yeah, what an interesting, like you said, sharp contrast of
mhm.
I have an amazing partner and I have an amazing mother and, I have an amazing support system. And then it's wild to see the people that you're like, well, I would also expect you to be a part of my support system, and just
Mhm.
the complete contrast of like how you're not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I think it's really hard to have a mother-in-law that you don't have a good relationship with.
Mhm.
Luckily I have a really good relationship with my mother-in-law, but I have so many people in my life that I know that don't. And it's hard because you and your husband, once you get married, you guys become one. Like, it is you and your husband. And I feel like there's this idea that, mommies are like, no, that's my son. I'm his mom. And it's like, I understand and I respect that, but I am his wife. So,
Right.
Yes, absolutely. And like that's been a struggle that I've witnessed multiple times in my life. Um just like through my interactions with my family members and everything. I mean, well, like, you guys know our hometown. It gets a little nuts. Um but so it's something that I've definitely witnessed over time, and it's really odd that it has to be a competition, because even like, obviously I don't know how religious all the viewers are, but and I know like that some people are going to get mad about, like, well, it says that a wife is supposed to submit to her husband. Like, no, it says that a wife is supposed to take care of her husband, but he is supposed to also take care of her, and also do this for her, and also do this for her. And I know like people don't usually take marriage advice from the Bible because they get mad at that verse. But it does say you are one. Like, your spouse really should be like your number one human priority, and especially if they are like the other parent of your children, like to the point of like you're a group, like you're supposed to be just one unit, and you do need to have like this extra support. But even when your kids get older, how are you going to support them if you don't have that support yourself? And how are you going to teach them what they need to look for in their future spouses? And so it's an interesting thing that like they try to throw marriage away sometimes in our society, and like put it that it's not as a big of a commitment as like blood relation, when it really should be. There are reasons for divorce, there are reasons for them, but they shouldn't be so easily jumped to. But because they are so easily jumped to in our society, I feel like that's what creates the dynamics of toxic mother-in-laws and things like that, because they're just like, oh, well, you're just the passing fancy.
Ooh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and
Like,
to your point,
I'm his mom. I'm always going to be here.
Right.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. And to your point too, like you said, you know, you both had mentioned you become one, and actually psychologically, that's true. There's studies proven that when you get married, and in like long-term relationships, but marriage is a long-term relationship. When you're that committed to somebody, your brain literally wires its neural pathways and your spouse, your partner, your long-term intimate partner is like where your neural pathway goes to. Oh, when people say, you were the first person I wanted to tell when something good happened, it's because there was a dopamine release and your brain went, oh, we have to go tell this person. And that is how it releases it. Like the synapse fires and then your dopamine release ends and the current is complete when you have told your person. And so, yeah, when like divorce and death, those things, you've severed that synapse. It's literally like you've severed a pathway in your brain. So you're absolutely right that that's a bond that you guys are now like your bodies, your brains, your chemical releases are intertwined. So it's not just something that like Burgundy's saying, like, I think it's important. It is important. And like, let's talk about legitimately, there's proof of that. So you're not wrong.
Yeah.
And that's hard too. You're right. When there's external family members that say, I love what you said, that said, well, you're just the thing passing through. And you're like, nope, we're wired.
We're wired. Our brains are connected.
Connected. Well, also here at Project Tell Your Story, we're not only shedding light, we've talked a lot about the dark parts of your story, right? And we're not just shedding the light on those dark parts. We've laughed a few times. Sam has cried the whole time. But we also want to kind of move into this resiliency part of your story. I mean, you've talked about through this entire thing, you've sprinkled in how resilient you were, how you kept coming back up, and how you asked for help. Do you think that you're resilient?
Yeah, I would have to say so. Because I really have grown a lot, and I keep growing a lot with it. Like it it changed a lot of how I look at things, and it changed a lot of how I deal with things. Um and also like my mom kind of makes fun of me for it, but like there's these little things that happen that don't really make any sense. And like I had wanted to be a mother since I can remember, like even from the time I was teeny tiny. And so like when I was feeling like I wasn't good at it, I was like, I waited my whole life for this opportunity and I'm so terrible at it. And so I like, and I obviously I don't really think that now. I mean, there are some days that I'm like, oh my gosh.
I think it's very relatable, yeah.
Yeah. And then so it like kind of put a whole new harsher reality on it for me for a little bit. And I remember like before I had kids, and don't get me wrong, I still hate this phrase because it's just obnoxious, but I had been working in a preschool and a school like setting. Like I had been working towards a teaching degree like from the time I can remember. But I was working in the educational field for a long time, and we got this new person working in our classroom, and she was like and she was a high school mother. And I mean, she wasn't still in high school, but like she had her child in high school. And I remember she just kept saying to me, well, you just don't get it because you're not a mom. Well, you just don't get it because you're not a mom. And I was like, dude, you gotta stop. Like, I've been working in this field for so long. Like, I've worked my butt off. I had degrees and certificates, and she just kept throwing it in my face. And I'm like, okay, look, just because you got pregnant in high school does not make you a better, like, teacher than me. You need to stop. But at the same time, like, there's these weird, like, things in your brain that, like, didn't notice emotionally before. And so it's not even that you don't understand because you're not a mom, because that's not really it. It's the process of going through all of it put a harsher reality onto my emotions and my connections to other people's emotions, I think. Like, it's a weird thing. But I notice different things about people's emotions now. And so it, like, I don't know, it put a whole different tilt to my world, I guess. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that absolutely makes sense. Yeah, and I think, yeah, that's exactly right. Like, part of that resiliency, right, is the change. You're like, I'm now even more connected to people's emotions. Like, after something really hard, a traumatic thing like being pregnant, birth, postpartum depression, all those things, like, you're now, and just motherhood in general, being responsible for a literal human being alive, that you're like, yeah, I'm connected, and that's a thing that I've built up through resiliency, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree.
And when you first submitted your story to us, I'm going to read a quote from your email. You said, "My story is pretty mild here. There's no villain except in my head. But I know a lot of women suffer from postpartum depression, and if my story could help someone, I'll gladly share it." So, Joe and I, when we read that, our podcast was pretty new. And I mean, it's still pretty new, but we were like really right off the ground. Like, you emailed us pretty, like, right after, I think, our intro episode. And Joe sends me the screenshot. She's like, this is, Burgundy, and this is what she said. And I was like, you tell her we absolutely want to talk to her. Like, and just the thought of, there's no villain except in my head. And I thought that was so powerful, because you're right. I think a lot of people in general, and then women in this experience, in this situation, think like that. Well, it's all in my head. I'm my own villain.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Yeah. And we do think your experience and your story is going to help so many women out there who have felt silenced in their own experiences after giving birth. But the question I want to ask you right now is, how do you feel like sharing your story has helped you?
Honestly, I feel like it makes it more known to people, really, because it just gets brushed off. Like, I feel better talking about it, because what you said earlier, say the scary thing. If I talk to my husband about how I'm feeling, if I'm feeling like bad thoughts, like I wish I could just disappear, I wish I could erase, if I talk to him about it, it's like making a cut deeper to promote the healing, kind of a thing, almost like kind of stitches, And so
Yeah.
it's I feel like telling your story, especially in a place like this where other people are also sharing their stories, where everyone's being vulnerable, really getting it out there can help you heal in the aftermath of it. Like, you're not keeping all of the details inside, you're not hiding from them. And that's, like, honestly, that's kind of what I'm hoping for like some family members of mine who I think could benefit from it. Like, I mean, obviously that's their choice and whatever else, but for me, when I decided to message you guys and be like, okay, I don't know, like, honestly, even just the process of messaging you guys, because I remember thinking, like, this is so dumb, like, it's not it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that traumatic. Almost gaslighting myself, like you had said earlier, Joe. Um, and so bringing that, like, even the process of going through that, like, no, I want to tell what happened. I want other people to know, like, that they're not alone, that they can do it too. I want to explain, like, the feeling of a heavy weight on your chest, because it's not supposed to be there, and it's okay that you're not okay, but you have to get the help, and talking about it and admitting it is the first step of anything. Like, no matter what you're struggling with, really, like, if if you're if you're struggling with negative emotions to the extreme, then it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to continually have those emotions and not get the help you need. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as a woman too who has not experienced pregnancy or giving birth, I'm imagining myself as you're talking, I'm putting myself in your shoes and wondering, like, what is your relationship? Like, you talked a lot about your relationship with your thoughts and your emotions and how that changed, but how did your relationship with your body change after this experience? And, like, are there things that you do maybe to have like a good relationship with your body now?
Honestly, that's something I kind of still struggle with. I definitely, so her labor was intense enough that it actually, it's a 3-tier tear. Obviously, like, you wouldn't really know what that means, but basically it's one of the high, like, it was a very high level. So um the, like, perineum, which is like the space between your holes down there, um mine was nearly completely, like, torn, like, from my vaginal hole clear down. And um and so, like, that isn't a great thing, obviously, and, like, they had to stitch it up and all of this, and, like, and I remember, so when I had my C-section, um and, like, they told me that I probably was going to have C-sections from then on, I remember my uncle, like, made a comment to my husband, like, oh, well, look at you, like, that it totally ruins. And I hate that that's, like, the thing that, like, society, yeah, yeah, but anyway, I hate that that's a thing that the society, like, puts a negative spin on, because at least as far as, like, my partner's opinion, that doesn't change it enough to make your partner feel bad about it. And not that it really even changes it at all. He's is according to him anyway, but also to the point of, like, their muscles, like, you can rebuild them. And my friend and I, actually, we went to this, it's called the Home and Holiday Show. It's just a, like, vendors of, like, home cooked things, or, like, small town businesses, like, come to the events complex, and, like, they can sell their things, whatever. Anyway, so this one physical therapist came through, or was there with, like, her little booth and her table, and my friend had stopped because, like, we were looking at a different table that was next to hers, and she'd, like, glanced over and realized that it was a pelvic floor, like, specialist, basically. And she's like, it's not okay that women think, like, that it's just a part of having babies, like, that you have, you sneeze and you pee your pants, like, that's just how life is, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. And so, like, going through that of, like, they, like, suggesting that I get a physical therapist, but, like, talking about, like, how different it is, and that it's just totally normal, and all of that is all, like, this pressure that you put on society for dumb reason, or this is that society puts on women for dumb reasons that really have nothing to do with anything, because it's a muscle that can be worked and can be strengthened back up. And so I'm definitely still struggling with that. because like that was just a couple weeks ago, so we haven't like talked to the lady yet, but she was telling us like it's made like it's normal, and it doesn't have to be. Like you can, it's just like any other muscle, and you can rebuild it and rework it. And that's okay to do because it's just a muscle. It's not that big of a deal to get that, but it's just so taboo to like have to do exercises for that muscle, I guess. I don't know. But and then as well, like I was really concerned with my C-section scar when it first occurred, but like the way that my husband talks about it, he's like, no, like that's how our son was brought into the world. So he like honestly kind of praises the scars that brought our kids into the world, and I think that that's something that most women don't get. Other women would get ridiculed for those scars, and they shouldn't be. Like you fought to bring a life into this world, and it shouldn't be, oh, well, now you're just used up goods. Like, you are still a person, and you're still incredible, and you're still able to do all of that, even if you have scars from it. And then I think that because of him and his supportive ways, mostly the thing that bugs me is, like, because there was so much extra water, I was just so ballooned out, and that I think is the one like issue I still have like with my postpartum body, is not feeling like I am still like that I'm still me kind of a thing. I always make
Yeah.
a comment, like jokes to my husband, because he had a crush on me in high school, like when I was a senior in high school, and when I was a senior in high school, I was only 125 pounds. Like, I was this tiny little thing, and so I always make fun of him, like, whatever, you just wish you had that 125-pound girl back. And he's like, no, because she didn't hang out with me. um
She didn't like me.
That's so funny.
but yeah, so it's just like that's like really the only thing I'm upset with my postpartum body about. Everything else I think is like through the confidence of like knowing it's a muscle, and through the confidence of like, no, these scars are beautiful, they brought our kids into this world, why would you hate them?
100%.
From my husband, like that's pretty much, yeah.
I love that.
That's so
And
good. Yeah.
like to your thought, like to your point of it's a muscle, I automatically made me think of this interview I was watching, and they were talking about like strengthening your pelvic floor, and it was not in it was like on a talk show interview, and they were like, oh, well, how's it like to have kids? And she goes, oh, I've been doing Kegels for the last 5 minutes, darling. Like she just talked about like the Kegel, because Kegels are a pelvic floor muscle strengthening exercise. And she's like, you can do them anywhere. And like it was a male was interviewing her, and he got like so uncomfortable. But I laughed, and it made me think of that when you were like, it's not a big deal. It's a muscle. Strengthen it back up. You're okay. Like so.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of funny. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love you being honest with that about, the different things of, oh, you just wanted the 125 girl back. That girl was a child, Burgundy. Like, you're a strong ass woman now. You got a strong ass woman body. So,
Yeah. And I feel the same way. I mean, even with like stretch marks, like I feel like people are always so worried about, oh my God, I'm going to get stretch marks when I have a baby. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's kind of a beautiful thing, because it just shows it's like the same thing as the scars. It shows what your body went through to bring that life back, or not back, but to bring that life into the
Yeah.
world. So
yeah.
that makes me
Absolutely.
happy to hear that you have a good relationship with your body. Yeah.
And
Sweet.
that you're working
So
on
as
it.
we yes, continuing. So as we wrap things up here, is there anything that you feel like you didn't get to share that you wanted to cover, or
I don't think so. I think we got everything in my
perfect?
crazy journey.
Oh, I'm so happy you came on to talk to us. This was such a powerful interview, and yeah,
Yeah.
you really touched, your story really touched me. So I'm glad that through the midst of my gosh, this is so dumb. Maybe I'll just send them an email and they can decide. Thank you. Thank you for moving past that, because even reading your email, we did not think it was dumb. And then coming on here, we definitely don't think it's dumb. Like, I have thoroughly enjoyed being a part of this experience with you. So thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, and thank you for really honestly building it, because I truly think it could help a lot of people if they can bring themselves to do it. I think that this could help a lot.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
and
so
I mean,
too.
you said at the beginning and even in your email that your goal was to help other women who are going through postpartum or have gone through it. I want to tell you that I feel like it's already helping me because I'm having a baby in like 2 weeks, and I'm like, yeah, so I'm like kind of terrified about getting postpartum depression, but just hearing your story and the strength that you have and like your support system, I feel like we're very similar in that way. I have an amazing support system as well, and it just makes me feel like, okay, you know what, if I do get postpartum depression, it's okay because like I have people who can help me. I'm a strong person, and Burgundy, she gave me some good tips. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Excuse me. I had a nurse in when I was pregnant with my son, like in the labor and delivery room, and she was like, don't ever don't ever second guess yourself. Like, if you're feeling yucky, call. We will help you. I will be your advocate. Like, cuz it truly is like that first jump to like get help is truly the hardest one. And so like knowing that you need, or yeah, knowing that you
Yeah,
can do that is a big deal.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, we will wrap up and get you back to your family. But we always want to end the episode with the same question. If you could write a letter to past you, what would you say?
Um, Probably you got this. Just remember to breathe. um, and yeah, like never, and always like look up to the people that support you, because they are there for you and they will be there for you when you need them.
Oh, that's
I love
beautiful. I
that.
love that.
Well, thank you
Perfect.
again. And this is Project Tell Your Story signing off.
Bye.
If you or someone you know is suffering from postpartum depression, if you are in the United States, call the National Maternal Mental Health Hotline at 833 852 6262. If you are outside of the United States, you may call the International Helpline at 1-800-944-4773.
Project Tell Your Story is created and produced by your hosts, Sam and Joe. Music composed by Morgan Mold. Logo art by Jordan Dalton. Ready to share your story? For a chance to be featured on our podcast, please reach out to us. Send a brief summary of your story to contact.tellyourstories@gmail.com.